What's up, guys? So in this video we're going to be setting up the WF-7710 for sublimation printing. Stay tuned. Okay, so normally I would be setting up something newer like these 4734, something more ready available that you can go and get off the shelf at like a Best Buy or Walmart or Target or something like that, and setting it up for sublimation, something like this 7820 or something like that. But these printers right here are still fairly popular. A lot of people still use them if you can find them. Now, I actually found this one off of the Epson website on their refurbished section or their clearance section. It's a refurbished printer. But if I'm going to get a refurbished printer, it's definitely going to be from Epson, the company that makes the printer. So first thing we're going to do is take it out of the box. We've already done that. And then we got to take this tape off of it. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so we got our tape off of it. Now let's go over some of the things that came in the package with it. Now, of course, it's going to come with your ink, power cord. You got to have an instruction manual, a quick guide, driver CD, and you're going to have a start here manual. Now, it may or may not come with a USB printer cable. If it doesn't, you can get this at any Walmart, Target, Amazon. It's just a USB printer cable. Make sure that the end looks like this right here. And now let's get into the things that we're going to need to actually use that are required for sublimation. We have the sublimation ink, of course, syringes, the refillable cartridges, and you're going to need some sublimation paper to put your images on. You're also going to need to get some gloves. These are optional, but I highly recommend it because ink gets everywhere. And you want to, protect your hands and your pretty nails and things like that. So let's go ahead and the next step would be or the way I do this, my next step is I'm going to fill and prime these cartridges. So let's go ahead and set this up so you can take a look at that. Okay, for this part, I always like to use gloves. And, you want to protect your hands and keep the ink and stuff from getting in your nails and stuff like that. It's really, 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 really messy if this stuff gets over your hands. So always wear gloves if you can. Let's go ahead and open these cartridges up. Now, when you open these cartridges, there's a couple of parts to it. So these holes right here, all of these clear ones, are your fill holes. These plugs right here, the colored ones, are your vent holes. This is how they come shipped. What I like to do is remove these, fill these, and then remove the colored plugs from the vent holes, and then I put them in the fill hole position. And the vent hole will be unplugged like this. So first thing I'm going to do is fill this up, and I'm going to prime the cartridge. Now what priming the cartridge does is it removes all of the air out of your cartridge and fills it with ink. I'm going to remove this cover here so you guys can see inside of the cartridge a lot better when I fill it. So first thing we're going to do is go ahead and get one of our syringes ready. Simple enough. I'm going to open our ink that corresponds with the cartridge. In this case, it's yellow. Now, you can sit here and try to pull this foil off, or you can just pop this in here like this. And I just kind of like to tilt this to the side a little bit and pull out. Simple enough. Get you some ink. I like to fill it all the way up. Your syringe all the way up. Now, what I should have did was pull this out first. So now I gotta find something to get that plug out with. Hold on 1 second. So we'll pull this guy out. You can keep these plugs if you ever decide to take your cartridges out and store them. You would put these plugs back in both of these holes, but we're just going to leave this out for now. We're going to take our syringe and we're going to pump in our ink into the fill hole. Remember, the vent hole is still covered with the colored plug. So we're going to fill this like so with the full 10 milliliters of ink. Like so. Okay? Then we're going to take the needle off of this syringe like so. And now we're going to do the priming process. Now keep your eye on this chamber right here. You can see it's empty because it's not primed. But once we prime this, what's going to happen is the air is going to move from out of here and it's going to be filled up with ink. So notice also we haven't punctured the bottom of this cartridge yet. This cartridge is still new and it has this film on the bottom. So what we're going to do is now take our syringe and we're going to place it firmly into the fill hole of the cartridge. You should be able to pull up the whole thing just like this. So once you do that, we're just going to pull up on the plunger, and what's happening is all the air is going to move out of the cartridge into the syringe, and then this chamber is going to fill with ink. All we're going to do is pull up a little until you feel a little bit of resistance, and then we're just going to let the plunger fall on its own. And what will happen is that air will move out of this chamber and get this cartridge ready to print by pushing ink into this chamber here, this middle chamber. Now, I like to do it twice and get it a good prime in there, and you can see the ink level drop down. So what you can do now is remove the syringe, replace your needle, and then you can continue filling it up with ink. So we'll go ahead and draw some more ink out of here, and then we'll continue filling this with ink. You can get as much as you can in there. I like to kind of lean it forward a little bit, let that air pocket move to the back. And then there we go. And then we take the colored plug out of the vent hole, and then we put it into the fill hole. Now, I got ink all over the place. Go ahead and clean that up a little bit. So this is what your cartridge should look like when it's ready to go. A nice amount of ink in this middle chamber here, and it's primed and ready to go. And this will prevent a lot of issues going forward. A lot of people just put ink in this thing, throw it into your printer, and it's trying to draw ink, but all it's doing is drawing air because it's not primed. It doesn't have any ink in that chamber for it to pull out of. And once it pulls out of there, it continues to draw out of the cartridge. But if it draws empty, then it's gonna have a big, kind of like a big air pocket in there, and it won't be able to pull the ink down out of the nozzle here. So always make sure that your cartridges are primed before you put them into the printer. So we'll go ahead and fill up the rest of these cartridges now. All right, so got all the ink cartridges primed and filled. As you can see, the black one took a little bit more ink because it's a bigger cartridge, but we still got it primed. Here's actually the chamber here that we had to fill with ink. So got that primed, everything's good to go. So now we'll move on to the next step, which is initializing the printer. Okay, so now we have our cartridges filled and primed. Now, make sure that these vent holes are open. So all of your vent holes should be unplugged and ready to go. If you were to plug these holes, what will happen is it would create a vacuum inside of the cartridge, and the ink would not flow out of the bottom. So always make sure these guys are open in the back. All these vent holes in the back, they need to be open. All right, so now we've got everything filled up and primed. Still have our regular ink cartridges here. We're gonna let them hang out here for a second, just in case. So we'll go ahead and turn the power on. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna go through its initialization. So it's gonna ask you your language. It's gonna ask for your dates and things like that. So we'll go ahead and get everything set up here really quick. Okay, so now it's going to ask you to install the ink cartridge that came with the printer and close the scanner unit. So we're going to open this up. And what's going to happen is that carriage is going to move over here, then move back to the home position. And then we're going to put in our cartridges. Now, sometimes it'll let you do it with these refillable cartridges that we already put in and primed. But then sometimes it'll tell you to put these cartridges that came with it in there. So we'll go ahead and try it with these first. So go ahead and open this up, our black. You want to push it till you hear that click. And again, notice all of the vent holes are open. Vent holes are open. Do not plug these holes up. So go ahead and close this carriage down. And then we'll close the scanner unit down. Let's see if it'll let us use those cartridges. So, anybody who's ever used these cartridges or used any kind of Epson ink cartridges or any third-party ink, you'll always get this this message here. Now, when we install the Chipless firmware, you'll never get this message again. But for this video, we're gonna act like we're not installing the Chipless firmware for now. So we'll just go ahead and click OK. Then we'll click on Proceed. And it's going to ask you, do you want to continue using this ink? Hit yes. And it's going to go through its initialization. So we'll let this finish up. Okay, now 6 minutes have passed, or about there, and the initialization is completed, Sam. So we'll go ahead and hit close. And now we have to select paper size for the paper source. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now, I'm going to be running a sub 125. So that's and the paper size that I'm using is going to be legal size. So we'll go ahead and do legal. And then we're going to do premium matte. Now, paper settings. Okay. So, depending on the paper you have, that's the type of setting that you can use. Now, there's some paper out here where they want you to use different settings. So, check with your paper manufacturer before you lock in the paper type on your printer. Now, for the paper that I use, which is the A sub 120, we're going to be using the premium matte. For the easiest, we're going to be using the easiest setup options here. So we'll go with the premium matte for now. Click on OK. We're not going to do a fax setup. So now we have the ink installed. All of the ink is showing that it's full at the moment. So what I like to do now is go ahead and do a what is it called? Nozzle check. There we go. I like to do a nozzle check. So we'll go ahead in the maintenance tab and we'll do our nozzle check. Hit start. Pull this out. It would be good if I had some paper in there. Let's do that. Now, to load the paper, you're going to use this tray down here. However, if you're using oversized paper, anything legal and bigger, you're going to have to expand your tray. To do that, you're going to click on this little button here and pull out. And that tray will expand and lock into place, like so. Then we're just going to adjust our paper guides here for legal size. All right. All right. So, back in here, we'll get our paper loaded. Alright, so now we should be ready to rock. Alright, so we got the nozzle check done, and there's some breakups here, but all in all, it's okay. A lot of people like to try to get perfect on these. I wouldn't waste the ink doing it. You can fix this with purge file. I'll show you how to do that in another video. But don't waste your ink doing this right here. This right here is good enough. If it was really, really bad, I would say do another one. But I wouldn't do another one at this point. So we'll go ahead and continue on here. And next step is to turn the firmware update off here. So we'll go back out. We'll go to General Settings, System Administration, Firmware Update, and then we're going to turn Notifications off, and that'll keep the printer from alerting you with a pop-up screen to update your firmware. So we'll go ahead and back out of this. And then we'll go ahead and set up our Wi-Fi. I like to print wirelessly, so I'm gonna go ahead and set this up now instead of doing it after we set it up on the on the printer. I've been on the computer. I'm sorry. So we'll go to Wi-Fi. Go to router here. Wi-Fi setup wizard. It's going to pop up with the SSIDs that are in range. So after it finds mine, I'll go ahead and connect to it. Right, and my password here. Alright, start the setup. This will take about 30 seconds here. Alright, so we'll click OK. And we'll close this out. Alright, and now we're ready to set up the driver on the computer. Oh, we got another. Let me hit no on this. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and set this up on the computer. Okay, so when you go to do the install of the driver, first thing you want to do is double click on your web browser. I'm going to open it up here and go to epson.com, and we're going to go into the search menu and type in our model, which is going to be the 7710. And from here you can just click on support, and what it's going to do is automatically detect your operating system. In my case, it's Windows 7 64-bit. If you're going to plan on using the scanner and the fax functions, I recommend just go ahead and select this combo package here to install. But since we're only going to be using the printer in my situation, I'm going to click on drivers, and I'm going to click on the printer driver, or select the printer driver and select download here. All right, and your installer is going to download here. You're going to right click, or in my case, I'm going to right click and open it. I'm going to click on yes, and it's going to install the driver here. Now, since we already installed the or set up the Wi-Fi, our printer's already on the network, so it should find it rather quickly and install the driver rather quickly. It's pretty fast. So as you can see, it's asking, is it connected to the network or USB? Now, we still are going to keep our USB cable out because we're going to install the Chipless firmware here shortly. But as of right now, you can just go ahead and click on yes to the network connection. It'll go ahead and scan the network and find it. So we can just click on the 7710 series here and click on OK, and it'll finish installing the driver. At this point, you're actually ready to print with the sublimation ink, but we're going to go through a quick setup of the drivers and how I like to set them up. Now, there's a lot of schools of thought on how to set up the color profiles and things like that. I'm just going to go over what works best for me. So I'm going to go into my devices and printers here. I'm going to find the printer we just installed, which is the 7710 here. So we'll right click on it, and I go into printing preferences. And now we're going to set up a printing preset for the paper that I use, which is going to be the A-Sub-120. So the A-Sub-120 that I use is 8.5 by 14. It's legal size sublimation paper. So I'm going to go over here to document size. I'm going to click on legal. And what works best for me is we're going to go premium presentation matte and high. Now, premium presentation matte, it puts down a lot of ink on the paper. However, I use a lot of aluminum substrates that are out in the sun, and the more ink on there, it seems to me, it seems to look better in the sunlight. When I go on things like a plain paper or a bright white paper, things like that, it prints a lot faster, but I can still see a lot of imperfections when I'm out in the sun. So for me, premium presentation matte, and put the color, I put the quality on high, and that's in this main tab. Then we go over to the more options. And then I print in landscape. So I make sure that landscape button's clicked. And that's on the main tab. On the more options tab, what I like to do is take off the high speed, and with sublimation, we always have to print in mirror image. So we'll click on that. Color correction, I go into custom, and then we click on advanced. Now, some people like to use no color adjustment. I found that with the ink that I use, that's not good for me. What I like to use, actually, with any ink that I use, I go up here to color controls. I have used Adobe RGB 2.2 and 1.8, and it looked good. But what I like to do is I go to Epson Vivid. I use slide bar controls, and I have a combination that I like to use. It's it's -20, and on yellow, -15. Now, it might look weird, but it always gets me in the ballpark of the colors that I want. And if they don't come out good in a test print, I can adjust these sliders here, and even these sliders here. I rarely mess with the saturation, but I'll adjust these sliders here. I'll do that on every printer that I have. And even like if you look over here, I have two of the same printer. I could put this in there and both of these printers will print completely different, even though they're the same exact printer. I always like to go in there and tweak these sliders according to my eye. Also, a big step that a lot of people skip is adjusting your monitor. Go into your monitor settings via the you can go through Windows search and type in monitor calibration. You can also sometimes get to it through your graphics card software, but you want to make sure that what you're looking at and what's printing is as close as possible. So you want to make sure that your monitor is adjusted as well. But we'll go over that in other videos, I'm sure. But as of right now, this is the baseline setting that I always like to use. So we'll click on OK. Also, in this maintenance tab, this third tab here, I go into the extended settings here and I turn off Epson Status Monitor 3. I just don't like I don't like the pop-ups that it comes up with. So say if you're running low on ink, a pop-up will pop up on the screen, on your computer screen. It's just not for me. If you guys dig it, that's cool. But I like to turn that Epson Monitor 3 off. But you definitely have to turn it off before we install the Chipless firmware. So keep that off for now. If you like those little messages and things like that popping up on you, just go ahead and come back to this maintenance tab and enable it again. But as of right now, I'm going to take this off. I always click on spool raw data type and print and bitmap. It was just something that was taught to me by somebody when we started sublimation printing a long time ago. They said it's supposed to help print the image faster. I don't really see any results, but I figure it's like praying. It can't help, or it can't hurt anything. So we'll click on OK here. And we'll go back to the main tab. And we're going to add this preset here. So now all those settings that I just went through and changed and made, we're going to save those into a into a preset. So we'll call that a sub 120. And you can put like notes in here. Sign to a slow typer, y'all. So after we do that, we go ahead and click on save. And now we have a preset over here. So click on OK. And now that's going to be stored in the driver's presets. So I print out of Photoshop. So what we'll do is go ahead and open that up. And I have a couple of test images that we're going to go with. Let's see if we can get those popped open here. There we go. Our test license plates. We're going to open those up. So here's first test license plate, something I just threw together real quick. Radio station from Vice City video game. If you know, you know. So we'll go ahead and click on print. we're gonna find the printer that we just installed, 7710. We'll click on print settings, and we'll go down to this A-sub-120 preset that we just made. I'll click on OK, and we can go ahead and hit print. Now, on color handling in Photoshop, I always make sure that the printer manages the color. If you was to click off of this, you can put in different profiles that you might have saved. I always do the printer manages colors unless I'm doing tests. So I was testing some profiles, some ICCs here. But anyways, make sure this stays on printer manages color, and we'll click on print on this one. And we'll click on print on this one. Same thing. Go down here to 7710. Print settings. A-sub-120. And we'll hit print. Now, if I save these, that information will be saved in there, and I don't have to go through those things again. I can actually print outside of Photoshop by right-clicking on the file and hitting print. But we'll go ahead and save these and close it out for now. It was running slow, so we'll close that out for now. So again, at this point, this is where a lot of people stop. They set the printer up for sublimation printing, and they install the driver, and they're good to go. You'll be good to go to print. But more than likely you'll run into some issues later on down the line. Like the most common would be that the printer would stop recognizing the ink cartridges, or during the print it'll stop printing and tell you that it's out of ink, even though it's a refillable cartridge, so you probably have it already full of ink. And it'll stop printing and make you take the cartridge out, put it back in, and it runs a head cleaning, and the head cleaning at that point is unnecessary. So it fills up your maintenance box with waste ink unnecessarily, creates air bubbles unnecessarily. So this is going to be like, if we were doing good, better, best, this would be good because it'll get you in there. You'll be able to print. You're just more susceptible to running into those issues. So what we'll do is go over the better option here, and that's installing the Chipless firmware. Now the Chipless firmware is going to make your printer always read full of ink, so it'll never ask you for ink, which means you'll never have any kind of cartridge issues. So we'll go ahead and get that installed now. Now I realize that this green check mark is checked here, which means that it's the default printer, which also means that I was rushing and probably didn't go through and uncheck the software update. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. So I have to go back to my printing preferences. I'm going to go back to my maintenance tab, click on extended settings so I can enable the Epson status monitor 3 again. And that should pop down here in my taskbar here in a second. There it is here. So we'll right click, software update settings, and click on never. Now, when you set up your driver, it's going to ask you if you want to set up the printer as a default, and if you want to automatically update your software. So normally I would uncheck both of those, but I was rushing. So we're going to click on never now and make sure that this is always done, so it doesn't sneak and install some firmware updates on you. So we'll click on OK, and we're going to OK out of here. Oh, make sure that we go back to our extended settings, and I'm going to disable status monitor 3 again. So now I don't have to worry about it going to update on me. So let me close this out. Now to install Chipless firmware, I'm going to go through the method that I use, and that's 2manuals.com. So go and open your web browser back up, and we're going to go to 2manuals.com, and in your search bar here, you're going to type in WF-7710, you'll see activation key. That's the one you want. You can click on that. It'll bring you to this page here. I'll put a link to this page in the description here. But basically, you're going to download 3 files. Before we download those files, so let's go to my desktop. I'm going to create a folder here. And we'll just call it Chipless. And the reason I do this is so that I know where the files that I'm downloading are going, and it makes for easier cleanup. So I'm just going to download, I'm going to create this folder. We're going to throw it over here for a second. Then I'm going to go back to the browser, and we're going to download 3 files. So first is going to be the actual Chipless firmware itself. So we'll go ahead and click on that. Now I have Chrome, so it's going to give me this this message here. We're just going to go ahead and keep. It'll finish up downloading here in a second. All right. So then we're going to download this right here as well, the WIC reset utility. Now this should throw me to another page. Let's see. Yeah, so we have to download it from this page here. So we'll just, I have Windows, I'm running Windows 7, so we'll go ahead and click download here. Well, try something else. Okay, I have to do open a new tab because it's probably a Chrome setting that I got set up some kind of way. But if it doesn't do it by just clicking on it, just right click on it, open a new tab, and it'll pop up down here. So again, we're going to keep that. So we've downloaded the firmware and the WIC reset utility. And there's one more file that we have to download. So let me go back to 2 manuals. And then we're going to download the license.exe. We can download that here. It's going to go to another website here. And we're going to download the license.exe utility. So we click on that. Oh, I already downloaded it a while ago. So what we'll keep. And so these are the 3 files you're going to have. License, it might not have this 2 there. WIC reset and the actual Chipless firmware. So I have all of mine in my downloads folder. So let me go to that. Okay, so it's these 3. We're going to go ahead and select them. I'm going to right click, I'm going to cut. And then I'm going to go back to that nope. I'm going to go back to that folder that we made, and we're going to paste them in there. And like I said, I just put these in here so I know where the stuff that I had is at. Because when you extract these, it's going to make new folders and everything. I want everything in the same area so that when I go to delete this, I can just delete the whole folder. So first thing we want to do is you're going to install the WIC reset utility. So we'll go ahead and run that. Now, if you're running a different version of Windows, you're going to have to do whatever you do to get past your user access control. So if you're running Windows 10, it'll tell you, I think it's the same thing as this, you know, do you want to let this program do changes? Just click on yes. Also, if you have like antivirus software, you might want to disable it while you're installing this because it might trigger some things. So we'll go ahead and accept and click on next. We'll let this install. I'm not going to create a desktop shortcut. I'll probably do a start menu though. Okay, so it's going to ask you, do you want to launch reset, WIC reset? Go ahead and click on yes, or keep that checked. click on finish. All right, so what WIC reset is, basically WIC stands for waste ink counter. So it basically is a utility that aids in resetting your waste ink counter on the printer. But you can also install firmware with it as well. We're just going to be using it to get information off the printer though. But it does have some tools in here that you can use that will aid in troubleshooting your computer as well. You click on this refresh detected printers if you don't have anything up here. I did it without explaining it a second ago. But you just click on that and it'll come up with all your printers. Now, as you look, you can see these icons here. Of course, they mean that all these printers right here are connected to the program to this printer via Wi-Fi. So we're going to click on the 7710, and then we're going to click on report. And what that's going to do is display the serial number and some other things. But what we want to do is get the firmware. So on here, you can see my firmware is FA278C. So that's not the firmware that we need on the computer. I'm sorry, on the printer. But this is where you go to verify or check your firmware version. So if we look back on our 7710 activation instructions, the firmware version that we need is Foxtrot Alpha 24 India 5, or FA24I5. This is the firmware that you want, and that's not the firmware that we have. Plus, we never even installed it yet. But we're going to go back to WIC reset real quick. We can close this status window out, and we get back to the main program, the WIC reset. And what we want to do before we start the install of the firmware is two things. First thing we want to do is click on this support, and we're going to go to disable processes. And what this will do is aid you in disabling any of the Epson processes that are running on the computer. You want to kill those while you're doing your update, just in case something happens where it's calling for some kind of process from the printer and it messes something up. So we just go ahead and kill all these processes here. Normally you can just hit terminate all, and all of them will kill out. But if they don't, you can right click on your taskbar and go to your task manager, and you can click on processes, show processes from all users, and then click on anything that says Epson down here on the left on the image name. You can sort it alphabetically here, and then anything with Epson, just go ahead and right click and kill it, or right click and end task. I don't have anything from Epson running at the moment, so we'll go ahead and close out of that. Once you don't have anything in here, and you can check it again by hitting update list. Once you don't have anything in here, you can go ahead and close all this out. So we'll actually close this out as well. Now, once we close that out, what we want to do is install the firmware. To do that, we have to extract it out of this zip file here. So we'll go ahead and double click it. I have an evaluation copy also. Got to click out of the nag screen. We'll go ahead and extract it to the folder there. All right. So it made this folder here. So this is where our program is going to be. This is where our program resides at. So we double click there. Before I start, let me go ahead and connect my printer to the computer via USB cable, as that is a requirement. All right. I got it. I didn't hear it. There it is. All right, so go ahead and connect that to the computer. Done that. We'll go ahead and run this this program here. It's the EPFWUPD. Stands for Epson Firmware Updater. So we'll go ahead and click on yes and let it launch here. We'll next through that, agree through this. And right here, it's going to give you the precautions, telling you need to be connected to a printer via the USB cable. So we'll go ahead and click on next. And down here, it'll say new version. We're going to click on that and hit start. Wait, we're not going to click on that and hit start. Make sure it's the one that says USB. Don't click on the one that says network. As a matter of fact, you just go ahead and uncheck it altogether. And highlight the one that says USB. You gotta wait a couple seconds. There I was rushing again. Wait a couple seconds and let this populate. Uncheck it, highlight USB, and click start. It's gonna ask you if you want to proceed with the firmware update. Go ahead and click on yes. Now, what's happening off camera is the printer is saying it's preparing the firmware update. And what's happening is the computer is updating the firmware on the printer via the USB cable. Now, what'll happen is this will get to about 85% and hang up and hang. I know y'all can hear the printer in the background. I'm sorry, it's so close to the microphone here. But it'll get to 85% and hang. But off screen, what'll happen is the printer will restart. And then down here, it'll say, I think it says like firmware confirmed or something like that. Once you get there, we'll go ahead and stop the process and the firmware will be transferred. If you were to let this go, it'll get all the way to 99% and it'll say that the firmware update failed. So I'm gonna pause it here and then I'm gonna come back and we'll go ahead and close this out. Actually, I might just speed it up here. Yeah, I'll do that. So we're gonna hang out. Okay, the printer just finished restarting, and as you can see down here, it says firmware version confirmed. Now, if you were to look at the printer right now, it'd be on the home screen, and it had just got done restarting. So at this point, we can just stop this program. Now, it doesn't have a button where you can stop it, so you have to stop the process altogether. So you just right click on your taskbar and you start your task manager and go to applications. It's going to be the Epson Firmware Updater. I'm going to right click it and end task, or you can hit end task here. And this is going to stop here in a second. But usually right after it gets to 85%, it's usually finished. So click on end now. And this will close out. Okay, yeah, Windows 7, it looks for a solution. You can just hit cancel out of that. All right, so at this point, it had already, we've downloaded and installed the firmware. Let's get back to our, okay, so at this point, we've already run this program. So now we go back out, and now we're going to open up Wick Reset again. All right, so we're connected to the printer via USB cable. Let's go ahead and click on Report. All right, so if this happens, don't worry about it. Just X out, refresh, click on the one where it's Wi-Fi, and then we'll click on report on there. All right, so when we click on report, if you look at your firmware version, it's now FA24i5, which is the firmware that we needed to have on there. So again, now check current firmware version. We've already confirmed that it's the firmware version that we have. If it has, it's been successful, and you can go to the next step. So now the next step is to run the activation, and you have to purchase that key. It's how much is it? $35, but trust me, it's very much well worth it. So on here, it's going to say you can pay by PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, etc. here or here. I always click on the second here, because if you click here, it basically just reroutes you to here some kind of way. So just go ahead and click on this one. And I'm not going to do it for obvious reasons, but you just put in your name, and through here, I always click on PayPal because that's something that I trust, and I work with PayPal a lot. So you put your PayPal email in here, do the CAPTCHA verification, submit your order. It'll go into your PayPal account. You finish checking out through them, and once you do that, it will send you an email with the activation key. So you'll get that activation key or get that email, and then you're going to copy your activation key. I already have one, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. Now that we've already confirmed that it's the version that we need. I've already have an activation key, so I'm gonna go ahead and copy mine. So this would be like if you got the email and you would copy your activation key, and then we're gonna go into the license. This would be that third file that we downloaded, so we'll go ahead and double click it, and we're gonna extract it as well. You can go right into that same folder. All right, so we'll double click on the license folder, and we'll double click on this license zip file. We have to do this again. Hold on a second. Extract it, and that password was 1234. Oh, all right. Houseway. Hold up. Hold on, y'all. All right. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Reading is so fundamental. All right, where are we at? All right, let's get back to it. All right. For real this time. All right, it's so embarrassing. So we go ahead and extract that, and then we now go into that folder. And then you'll see this little thing that looks like a IC board or IC chip. We're gonna double click it. Now, if you're running Windows 10, you'll probably get a UAC pop-up saying that dangerous program or something like that. Just right click on it and say more info, and then continue running or something like that. I forget. I don't run Windows 10 a lot, so but it tries to keep you from running it. Just get around it by saying, yeah, I want to run it, and it's not a dangerous program. So Again, you have to have your computer connected to your printer via the USB cable at this point. And when you get to this this screen right here, you just click on Activate Online, and then it's going to ask you to input your activation code. I'm going to just go ahead and Control V from when we copied it the first time. Click OK, and then it's going to actually write activate the firmware. Now at this point, the Chipless firmware is completed, and to apply it to the printer, you have to power cycle it or turn it off via the button. I'm going to go ahead and do that now and turn it off with the button. It's going to ask me, are you sure you want to turn it off? You click on yes and let it shut down. Now while that's shutting down, I'm going to OK out of this screen, and what you want to do is copy this stuff down here, this code down here. This is your recovery code. You're going to copy it, and we're going to go back to our Chipless folder that we made. We're going to right click, and we're going to make a text document, and this is going to be called our recovery code. And this is very important that you keep this, just in case you by accident update your firmware. You can go into that license.exe program and recover your code this way, and still make your printer chipless without having to purchase the key again. So, but I think it's burnt into the MAC address some kind of way. So if you guys see mine on this video and try to do it, it's not going to work. So I've tried. So anyways, now that we've got that done, we got the computer powered off. We're going to go ahead and turn it back on. All right. And what was I doing? Oh yeah. We wanted to go here, and we're going to make a recovery code text file, and we're just going to paste that code in there. So all this long code, if you needed to, you could just Control A and then hit copy. But also you want to make another one that says activation key. So if I spelt that wrong, it is what it is. So we're going to play like this is our email. We copy it, activation key, paste, and get out of there. Save it on the exit. So when we decide to delete all the stuff in this folder, if you want to, just make sure you get these two things, copy them, and save them to the cloud, or do whatever you do to save things into a safe place. So at this point, the printer is reading chipless, and I am going to go over that in another video. Well, I'm going to stop the video here and show you what it looks like when it's chipless. Okay, so we installed our activation key and did our power cycle, and this is what the printer looks like after it's chipless. Looks exactly the same. But when you go to your ink, all of your ink is going to read full from now on out. So you won't be getting any of those issues where you have the cartridges that won't be recognized by the printer, or it'll stop in the middle of a print, or it'll tell you that you have non-genuine Epson ink cartridges, things like that. So you won't have those issues. But if you go to any Facebook group that has sublimation, you'll see just a smattering of people with these types of issues, asking for help. So you can send them to this video, and maybe I'll be able to help them out. So it'll always read full of ink. Now you'll still have to do some maintenance as far as getting this thing or keeping it full with ink. You don't want to let the ink run all the way out, because the printer thinks it's always full of ink, even though that's not the case. It'll also allow you to print with those cartridges empty, and if you do that, you run the risk of damaging the print head. So you don't want to do that. So what I like to do is make sure that I keep ink in the cartridges if I'm using the cartridge system. So to do that, I just want to lift this up, and we're not going to ever add ink by hitting the replace ink function on the printer. What we're going to do is add the ink to the cartridges while they're in the printer. So what I like to do is just go ahead, and now don't get me wrong, if you want, you can still do it that way. You can hit ink, replace ink, take the cartridge out, fill it with ink, put it back in. It'll do a head cleaning, and hopefully everything will work out fine. If not, you'll just have to run a couple head cleanings, purge files, and everything like that. But if you keep the cartridges in the printer, it never creates that air pocket that creates those breaks in the line. So you'll run less head cleaners. Now, there'll be times that you might see some imperfections in your prints that you might want to do a head cleaning, but for the most part, as long as you keep ink in the cartridges, you should be fine. You don't have to do 1,000 head cleanings. So what I like to do is right here on this hinge, if you stick your fingernail in between this piece of plastic and this plastic cover here and pull, that little piece unclips, and then you can just slide this out of that carriage, off the top of the carriage, and it exposes the plugs on here. So after you get done with some prints, or before you start printing, you want to make sure your cartridges are topped off. So with it in this home position, you can just take a plug off. I like to do it one at a time so that you don't overfill and it leak into another cartridge. I put a syringe of ink here in, slowly fill. It's getting to the top there. And there we go. We fill it, and then we plug it back up, and you're good to go. And then you rinse and repeat for the other two. Always do it one at a time, though, just to make sure you're safe. And you can keep that cover off of there, and now you'll never have to worry about going into the menu to change the ink out. Just make sure after you print every day, or before you start printing, make sure all your colors are topped off, and then you'll never run the risk of burning or damaging the print head by printing with empty cartridges. Because again, it's never going to ask you for ink. So, like I was saying earlier, if we were to good, better, best this would be the better option. You'll never run into those issues. You'll never have to worry about it stopping your prints in the middle, and then starting up, wasting another sheet of paper and things like that. It gets really frustrating. People who've done it the good way, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But like I said, just make sure you keep some ink, a little bit of ink in some syringes. That way, depending on how heavy you print, you can just go ahead and refill after you're finished. Also, the maintenance box, you want to keep an eye on it. Depending on how heavy you print, maybe take a look at it once every other week. And you can access the maintenance box back here. Open this tray here, and then your maintenance box is this gray box right here. Just pull that out. It doesn't register the maintenance box either. So just like the ink, it's going to always read that it's empty. on the maintenance box. But if you start to see it leaking, like all on the sides or things like that, then you should probably go ahead and put another one in order. I'll have some of those on the website too. Also, the ink will be up there. The cartridges are already up there. Y'all bear with me, man. I'm trying to get everything up on the website and get the website updated as soon as possible. But yeah, we can go ahead and stop it here. And I'll go ahead and get these prints ready for sublimation. Oh, and earlier, let me see. I only made 3 things, so earlier, like I was saying, these breaks in the line, a lot of people try to get these perfect, but just the simple, just printing these 2 pages, I want to show you something. So if we go to maintenance, I'm willing to bet those lines have cleared up, because sometimes all it needs is just ink moving through the print head to clear up some of those breaks. So let's run a nozzle check real quick and just check it out. As you can see, perfect. So sometimes all it needs is just ink to move through it, and you want to try to get as many of the colors in there as you can. Like I said earlier, I'll try to make a video of a purge file. All it is basically is just the cyan, magenta, black, and yellow colors on a sheet, and you print that out, and basically it just lets ink move through the print head. So I'll go ahead and get these on the substrate and press, and we'll take a look at the results. Okay, so this is our second test print. Now we'll go ahead and take that out and let it cool. So those are our 2 test prints. Now this method also works for the 7720 as well. So if you have anybody that is having issues with the 7720 as well, this video should be able to help them out. When you're pressing substrates, really depends on the substrate. This is aluminum, so this press right here is actually set up to run Celsius. So it's set up at 200 degrees Celsius, 66 seconds. More like 60 seconds, but the timer's a little fast on this one. So, but yeah, so got this cool enough. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the first creation on the 7710 that we got in the other day. So, all right, there we go. Wave 103, Vice City. All the new wave radio hits. And a little Snoopy and Woodstock. Rock bounce roller skating. So yeah, those blacks came out really decent. Yo. So that's how you do it. Good, better, best. The best option obviously would be to have like I said, the bulk ink system. And I don't know if I already said this, but we're going to be putting it on here. I probably already said this. I smoke way too much. But yeah. We're going to be putting bulk ink system on this one next, so stay tuned for that. And that'll work on the 7720 as well. So thanks for watching. Like I said, like, subscribe. I'll try to put more videos out as soon as I can. I'm really working hard as I can to get this stuff out. So thanks for watching.